Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, you find a way to lose, or you find a way to give yourself a heart attack or an aneurysm if you're Eddie Hearn, because he decided to pass up on Zhilei Zhang after Zhilei Zhang lost to Flip Hrgovic. And Frank Warren picked him up. In addition to Eddie Hearn creating his own misery and about to give himself an aneurysm or heart attack, Anthony Joshua doesn't have any belts. Furthermore, Eddie Hearn has, really outside of AJ, he doesn't have anyone in the heavyweight division that can be a real threat to Usyk, to Hrgovic, to Zhang, to Wilder, outside of AJ. But if you look at the situation that's going on in the heavyweight division, Frank Warren is the man with the master plan at the heavyweight division, and Eddie Hearn can't handle it. Now, let's just take a look at this, right? We're going to put some things in perspective, people. Alexander Usyk is the go-to guy. He's the unified, has 3 belts. Tyson Fury has the other belt, okay? Those two, that's all that matters for the most part. Going on to pick up those titles, become undisputed. Now, Fury is with Frank Warren, okay? Simple. So that's one of the key players in the heavyweight divisions with Frank Warren. Wilder's over there on PBC. Joshua's with Eddie Hearn. But one thing about Eddie Hearn is he has connections. He can pull strings. There's money he's willing to put up for AJ to get a shot at a piece of those belts, piece of the hardware. But I'm not so sure that happens anytime soon because Frank Warren at number 4 has control of Zhang. After Zhang, remember, so Frank Warren has number 1, he has number 4. 5, Andrew Ruiz, over there on PBC, he's not getting a shot at anything anytime soon. Frank Warren also has Joe Joyce. Although Joyce lost twice to Zhang, that's still Frank Warren's guy. Okay? And he has Dubois, he's not on this list. 7 belongs to, Ortiz belongs over there to PBC. Not sure what's going on with him. Then you got Parker. Parker seems to be floating anywhere he can get a fight. Hrgovic, right? The next key player in all of this, he's with Frank Warren. So Frank Warren has the number 1 guy, the number 4 guy, and he has the number 9. And let me tell you something. When you come down here and you take a look at where they fall, the WBO, Usyk is the man, but then Zhilei Zhang has an interim title. IBF, Usyk is the man. Flip Hrgovic is the mandatory to Usyk. That's the next fight for Usyk. So Frank Warren is in the mix for the WBO. Frank Warren is in the mix with his guy, Flip Hrgovic, for the IBF. And then for the WBC, it's really Frank Warren with Tyson Fury. And whoever Tyson Fury decides to fight, which should be Usyk if Tyson Fury decides he wants to go for undisputed. Then you come and take a look at the WBA. That's where it gets a little bit funky. Because Usyk, more than likely, you're going to fight Gerald Miller. Because Gerald Miller is supposed to be fighting Manuel Char for that WBA World Heavyweight Championship. And then Gerald Miller is going to become mandatory to Usyk. So when you look at this and we talk about the dust settling, at the end of the day, for that WBO, Zhang and Frank Warren are in the game. For the IBF, Usyk, Frank Warren, Hrgovic are in the game. For the WBC, Fury, it's Frank Warren guy, and he's of course in the game. And Fury's getting the biggest fights right now out of everybody in boxing. Then for the WBA, Frank Warren and his guys aren't in the mix. But I tell you what, if Gerald Miller beats Char, Frank Warren will be quick to put Dubois on him, to put Hrgovic on him, to put Zhang on him, to put Fury on him. You're going to see, I would see Tyson Fury fighting Gerald Miller before any of these guys. Because Tyson Fury can make a whole bunch of money. He knows that Gerald Miller is a controversial figure. And he knows that Gerald Miller will take less than nothing for that fight. And I can see that happening. Because Gerald Miller's not going to be the guy to become the mandatory to Usyk. He may become the manager, but he's going to have to wait. It's going to be Hrgovic, then Zhang, and then probably Miller if Usyk still is holding on to the titles. But that being said, when you look at that, there's not one person here that Eddie Hearn has anything to do with outside of AJ, and AJ's not getting the crack. Now, AJ could get a crack at Zhang because it's all about money, but realistically, we just don't know what the hell is going to happen here. But when you look at it, everything is Frank Warren. Frank Warren's in play across everything. He's in play. And I think he'll get in play on that WBA as well. But we just have to wait and see. And it's so interesting to me how all of this happened because Eddie Hearn didn't want to hold on to Julius Jane. And that's the part about boxing that sucks. You take a loss, and these promoters just get rid of you. What Eddie Hearn did to Jane is what Frank Warren's looking to do to Joe Joyce right now. Now, Joe Joyce is one of his guys, but he's throwing him to the scrap pile, man. He is throwing him out there, man, to the scrap yard. He doesn't. It's like he's like, hey, I can't get nothing else out of Joe Joyce. It's time for me to move on and develop Jane, develop whoever else I have that I think has the potential. And I just think that sucks because I feel somebody should pick up Joe Joyce because Joe Joyce still is loved out there in the UK, and there are fights that Joe Joyce can make where Joe Joyce can get some big wins. He just went up against a monster, and people out here talking about, oh, hood champion, you're just a bandwagonist. You're jumping on the bandwagon, the hype train. No, I'm not. Go look at my videos, bozo. I've been following Jane for a while now, over a year. You haven't. Come out here telling me I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Don't make assumptions. Do your due diligence before you come out here, man, and try to, poke me in the eyeball, man. Get out of here with that. But if you just take a look at the racking stack, who could Joe Joyce fight? He already fought Parker. Otto Wallen is a good fight for him. Andrew Ruiz will be a good fight for him. Frank Sanchez will be a good fight. Jared Anderson will be a very good fight. That's probably a route Jared Anderson people would like to go, is get in there with Joe Joyce. And with the way Joe Joyce responded to Zhang, they may feel that, hey, Anderson has a good chance and Joe Joyce is still a big name. Daniel Dubois is still a big name for Jared Anderson and Joe Joyce. Who knows what's going on with Dillian White. But when you take a look at this, F.A. Jagba is a good opportunity for Joe Joyce. So Joe Joyce isn't looking at the U6, the Wilders anymore. He's not looking at those guys. Andy Ruiz it'd probably be a good fight for him. But what I'm getting at with Joe Joyce is he's still in the mix. He is still very much in the mix. And I think Eddie Hearn should pick up Joe Joyce and not worry about what Frank Warren's doing. And Frank Warren basically is doing the same thing. And I think Joe Joyce can get himself back in the mix. But we just have to wait and see because he may come back hungrier than ever. But the one thing about Joe Joyce is he's up there in age. He's taking a lot of damage in sparring. He's taking a lot of damage in professional fights. And I'm just not sure how much he really has left in the tank. But I definitely don't think Joe Joyce is a bum, and I don't think he deserves to be dropped off of these racking stacks. I think he belongs in there, and I think all he needs is one or two return fights where he does to opponents what he's done in the past, and everybody will be back on the hype train, and they'll be talking about how just good Julius Shang is, because by then, Shang probably would have another one or two big wins, and that'll just speak volumes about Zhang and what Joe Joyce actually had to endure with such a great South heavyweight champion who's a southpaw. But that being said, y'all keep cool. Frank Warren, he's just a step closer to running that heavyweight division. All he needs to do is get one of his guys to pick up that WBA strap. If he can do that, Frank Warren is in business. And then he can sit there and just have his guys fight each other. And Eddie Hearn can't do nothing. And they can sit there, man, and just ostracize Anthony Joshua and leave Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn out in the cold. And that's probably what they'll do. But we got to see. But I'll tell you right now, Eddie Hearn is miserable. And I was wondering, I said, what the hell's wrong with Eddie Hearn? That's why he's going back and forth with Frank Warren and Queensberry and Matchroom, is because Eddie Hearn realized he made a mistake. He's made some bad choices when it comes to the people he chose to sign and people he chose to get rid of. And it is what it is. So that being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. And I tell you what, if Eddie Hearn is choosing to invest, pour money into SHIB, pour money into Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever he's getting invested in, I'm doing the opposite. I ain't touching nothing. Eddie Hearn been making the wrong calls lately. Y'all don't follow Eddie Hearn. You'll be miserable just like him. Anyway, y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.